This is the coolest new truck I've driven in a long time. Partially soiled by President Lyndon B. Johnson, chickens, and the Type 2 Volkswagen. Do you want an old school, solid axle, mechanically locked, rugged, steel-wheeled pickup truck? Well, based on the comments you guys leave us regularly, the answer to that question is a resounding yes. You can have one. I present to you the Ineos Grenadier Quartermaster. This is a crew cab, mid-sized truck-ish, designed in the UK with a German engine, Italian axles, and sold right here in the good old USA. Granted, that does sound like a lot of ingredients for a fairly simple formula. However, we did own, live with, off-road, and daily drive a Grenadier for a number of months. Not the Quartermaster truck, but the standard station wagon. And we paid $84,000 of our hard-earned dollars for it. There were a number of frustrating, maybe design quirks, which we'll talk about in this video, but overall it was shockingly good. Even resident American cowboy Andre liked it. Now, this Quartermaster seems to take that station wagon formula and add to it, which is great, but it comes at a cost. Pretty big cost. And that cost is $86,900 for the basic Quartermaster with the little shopping cart wheels. If you want one like this, spec that with the cool racks and the off-road tires and the locking diffs, you're gonna be well over $100,000. So I think we all agree, or at least I agree, that we want basic, rugged, solid axle, locked diff pickup trucks. But would you pay the price of a well-equipped Corvette for one, or almost two Ranger Raptors? Why the heck is the Quartermaster so expensive? Well, this is where our friend Lyndon B. Johnson and the chickens and the Type 2 Volkswagens come into play. So early 1960s, the US has really cheap chickens. We're dumping them on European countries, and they're like, whoa, this is really hurting our farmers and our ranchers. You can't do this. We're gonna tax your chickens. And then the Johnson administration said, that's fine. We're gonna tax your cornstarch and your brandy and also all light-duty trucks. The chicken tax. This is a big deal. So starting in 1964, the US has actually since placed a 25% tariff on imported trucks. And really, if you read between the lines, it was classic politics. The UAW basically negotiated with Johnson and said, look, the Volkswagen Type 2 is doing really well. We have competitors, but they're not doing as well. What can we do to reduce the number of Type 2 Volkswagen trucks in the US? The answer, a 25% tariff, and it's been in play ever since. That's why this truck is so expensive, at least one of the reasons. Quick sidebar, by the way, I just read this book called Small Wonder, which was a really detailed history of the Volkswagen Beetle. Anyways, did you know that for a while there, Volkswagen had purchased an old Packard plant with the plans of manufacturing vehicles here in the US? It never went through, they ended up selling it off. But that's kind of a cool little piece of history. But let's just for a second take price out of the equation and check out the Quartermaster for what it is, which is one of the coolest new trucks available on the market today. And I really do mean that, because there is nothing on the market quite like the Ineos Grenadier. Or do you say Ineos? Now, quick background behind this vehicle. British billionaire named Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He loved the Defender, was really bummed when Land Rover discontinued the old style Defender. He asked Land Rover, hey, can I keep building this? He had the money and the resources. Land Rover said no. So he said, all right, I'm gonna go do it myself. And he did. Imagine having the money and the resources available to start your own car company because your favorite went out of business. Land Rover sued him. He won in court. Fast forward a couple of years, and the Ineos has been on sale in the States for some time now, selling in pretty surprising numbers, I have to say. Now let's talk about the overall design. So there are two variants. We can get a good look of them next to each other here. There is the standard station wagon configuration. This is the one that's been on sale. And then this is the vehicle I'm here to drive in Palm Springs. And I'll have a full driving impressions video up shortly of what it's like to off-road. Anyway, Quartermaster, about 12 inches longer than the station wagon to make room in that bed. But the formula between the two is the same. Underneath, we have a ladder frame with solid axles front and rear, available locking diffs, and a full-time four-wheel drive system with a 4-low function. All right, let's dive into some of the specifics around the design. Now, the truck and the SUV do look pretty similar, and in my mind, that is a great thing. This is a classic case of form follows function. Function first. Every aspect of this vehicle is, as Ineos would say, built on purpose. It's designed to be rugged, long-lasting, and serve a purpose, which is off-road travel, overlanding, and work. Even if that price, is more in line with some vehicles in Beverly Hills, the design aspects of this vehicle are so incredibly useful. So up front, we have a big, chunky, separate bumper, metal bumper with an optional integrated red winch. Very cool. LED headlights with off-road lights set into the grille. The front fenders are lowered, kind of like the old school Defender. And then you got a super low hood line, which means visibility out of that front windshield is excellent. Huge side windows. You can option it with these little MOLLE panels on the side as well. So if you wanted to attach accessories to your Quartermaster, you certainly could. And then as we make our way out back, we've got our fairly low bedside, 6 feet tall. I can pretty easily reach the base of the bed. Out back, we have full LED taillights, separate bumper here as well, and then of course our integrated hitch. You'll notice recovery points front and rear. My favorite part about this truck though has to be the availability of steel wheels. Such a cool look. Now I know a lot of folks think steel wheels look a little 1990s Ford rental car. I think it looks purposeful and it really matches the character of the vehicle. If you don't like the steel-wheeled look, well, there are of course a number of alloy options, so you're not stuck with that design. But there are a couple of different trims available. So there's the base Grenadier. There is the Trialmaster, which gets you all the off-road goodies basically spec'd at once. So you get stuff like the steel wheels, the off-road tires, you get the integrated snorkel, which is very cool. And then if you want a little bit more luxury, you get up to the Fieldmaster, which gets you nicer stuff on the interior, all in one go. And then you also get like the alloy wheels, you lose the snorkel, you get more on-road worthy tires, and you get the label here on the cowl as to which one you got. But overall, such a cool looking vehicle. Look, is it worth the price point from a design standpoint? Well, if you are a G-Wagon customer, a lot of folks out there have G-Wagons. It's a little spent in terms of design. If you're a Defender customer, very cool design, but maybe you want something a little bit more rugged, that's where the Grenadier comes in. It's just so unique. It's fantastic. I really get excited every time I see one of these on the road. What about the interior? Well, to get in, old school door handle, push the button, pop it open, and now we can take a peek at what Ineos has done inside the Grenadier Quartermaster. So, depending on your configuration, you can spec kind of a cool neoprene seat or this leather seat with partnership with Recaro. So it's actually a very comfortable design. It is a manual seat, but I find that, at least for my body type, which is string bean, it does contour very nicely. Now the inside has some other great features, which I think a lot of truck folks out there would appreciate, starting with the floors. You can option this vehicle with carpeted floors. A lot of them though have the standard rubberized floors, which is great for keeping this vehicle clean. Now the dashboard design is very upright, very basic, and extremely functional. So some things you'll notice, it still has a place here for the key. So you still need a key to start the Quartermaster. It's got tons of buttons, switches, and knobs. So everything from your heated seats to your climate control, your audio, volume control is still a knob. All of your climate control settings, right? Still old school buttons. I mean, that's awesome. Traditional handbrake there. This is going to be your control for your screen up there. Now, one thing which is a little bit of annoyance to some customers is there is no separate gauge cluster. It's all incorporated here into the main screen. And then up above, huge variety of buttons that do a number of things, from your differential locks, if spec, your off-road mode, your wade mode. And off-road mode does some stuff that like major companies' lawyers would never let them do. Like in off-road mode, it disables the seatbelt chime, which is a nice thing in certain off-road situations. You're getting out, you're spotting, you don't want it beeping at you constantly. Pretty cool. And then this vehicle can also be spec'd pre-wired with little pigtails going throughout the vehicle for all sorts of accessories, and they are based on amperage. You got your 10 amps there, 500 amp NATO plug in the rear if you wanted to run a rear mounted hitch, 25 amp there, and then you can turn all that on via this power bank there. On the roof, 2-spoke steering wheel with your toot button, which is not activated, but it's like a little toot toot versus the big horn. The interior is really pretty nice, actually. I find it to be quite functional, and the coolest part is you can option this vehicle with these little roof panels that do pop out. Let me see if I can demonstrate that. My favorite way to run them is just like that, in the little vent form, so you get a little bit of fresh air. No shade. I would probably come up with some kind of shade solution for that bad boy, but it's pretty cool to see. And then let's check out the back seat here. You really gotta commit to closing these doors, and when you do, you get a nice thunk. So back seat, fairly standard for what I would consider the length of this truck. So not a ton of legroom. This certainly isn't a full-size truck. And it is actually very upright. So, you know, let's see how the comfort is. Ow, just bonked my head getting in there. You do sit up nice and high overlooking the front end, but legroom and room in the back seat is definitely minimal. Interesting. I do like, you know, the outlets, and then if we lift up under here, this is where you're going to find your dual battery group and access to a bunch of fuses. So not a ton of under-seat storage there, also by Recaro. Yeah, it's a pretty small back seat. And then out back, we got about a 5-foot bed. And at first I thought this was a composite bed because it's got this plastic lining, but that is just a drop-in plastic bed liner. Kind of an interesting choice. Tailgate, definitely not damped. No fancy steps, no fancy tailgate stuff, just basic tailgate with some cutouts here for cup holders. Spare tire location in the bed. What do you guys think of that? I am not sure that's where I would put my spare tire if I was designing a truck. Let's see what's underneath in the area where it would be. A whole lot of nothing. Interesting. Look how tucked back that exhaust is. I mean, there's a huge gap between the exhaust and the bumper, which is good for off-road, right? So you're not scraping it, but I would prefer to see that exhaust moved and then have that tire in the back and not a ton of space between the wheel wells. So it's a wide vehicle. Look, total length is like 212 inches. It's pretty much in line with like a new Chevy Colorado in overall length, but the width is big in this vehicle. It's almost like full-size truck width. So not super long, but very wide. And you know, you see that in the bed, more or less. The total bed width between the rails is pretty good, minus a spare tire, but the width between the wheel wells is going to be a little bit more minimal. And then towing, over 7,700 pounds according to Ineos, which is a good number. You can see the hitch integrated here. Let's see where they stuck the wiring. Looks like it's over here. Yeah, there's your 7-pin tucked super high up out of the way. There's that NATO plug if you wanted to run a winch. I didn't see an integrated brake controller in this vehicle. So good towing numbers, but you are going to have a brake controller added. So that's a little bit of a look into the functionality. You do have some grab handles up here if you wanted to get to a roof. This point right here is where you can access some of your power points on the vehicle. So a lot of cool features. Bed is more or less useful, be more useful without the spare tire. But yeah, I think that was a pretty decent overview, at least for a first look. And once again, we'll have a full video up after Margot that has all of the new details, what it drives like, and that kind of thing surrounding the Quartermaster. The engine in the Grenadier Quartermaster. It's a double pull here to open the hood, and that's because the engine is sourced from BMW. It actually says so up here on the hood, powered by BMW. Now, it's a 3-liter inline-6 turbocharged engine. It makes 282 horsepower, just over 330 pound-feet of torque, and this is one of the hot button issues for you guys out there. When we had ours, we got a ton of comments about reliability and longevity of this B58 inline six. Now, here's the thing. This vehicle has been out in the States for a number of months, but it's been out globally for longer than that. And there are folks that have taken the Grenadier around Africa. There are folks that have driven it to many, many places in the world, and they appear to be holding up really well. I'm pretty plugged into the Grenadier forums, and I like to see what people's complaints are. And honestly, reliability seems to be pretty spot on this vehicle, which makes sense because a lot of the engineering was done by Magna, which is the largest engineering firm you may never have heard of. But it's got some established powertrains. So B58 engine used in like the BMW 340i, the Toyota Supra. It's good enough for Toyota. It's probably good enough for Ineos. Made to a ZF 8-speed transmission. Actually, one of my criticisms of the interior is they didn't change the BMW shifter. How do you have such a cool transfer case lever and then the on-road city slicker shifter? But anyway, ZF 8-speed transmission. It's been around forever. It's used by everybody. Excellent transmission. And then behind that is a Tremec transfer case, all this tuned by Magna. Tremec transfer case, another established maker in the auto industry. And then mated to that are Carraro solid axles. Now, Carraro is a company there's a good chance you've never heard of. It's not super well known in the US, but it's kind of like the Dana of Italy. But more than that, they do axles for like trucks and buses and tractors. So they're a really heavy duty axle manufacturer. If you actually look at some of the components underneath this thing, I mean, they really look beefy. Axle shafts, steering components are just so thick. So, you know, it's interesting. I follow the Grenadier forums online pretty regularly. I like to see what people are commenting, what are they complaining about. And reliability doesn't seem to be one of the issues people are having. They seem to be pretty darn sorted, which is very impressive for a brand new vehicle manufacturer. So the Ineos Grenadier Quartermaster, one of the most interesting mid-sized trucks of the year. Solid axles, old school buttons, BMW inline six, decent sized bed, and what appears to be a ton of off-road capability, but when well equipped for over $100,000. Not sure where I stand on this vehicle yet. I'm gonna have to get it out on the trail and see if it really does off-road like a $100,000 truck. Look, the price difference between this and the station wagon depends on configuration. It's like $10,000, $12,000. And this vehicle does offer some great features for that additional price. But is it worth it over the station wagon? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. As always, this has been Tommy behind the camera. Also Tommy. We'll see you on another episode. Head over to alttfl.com for more info on Ineos and everything else automotive.